I would say that Tokyo Drift kind of feels like the Mad Catz version of like a Fast and Furious movie. Like
Amusingly eccentric,
you can still
by the way.
plug it into your PlayStation and it'll do the thing, but it like feels a little bit weird in your hand, and like it probably is one of the like translucent plastic ones where you can see all the inner mechanisms and all that.
Yes,
that's what Tokyo Drift is. I think.
Right on. Yeah.
My name is Nate.
My name is Mike.
And what the hell was that?
What the hell was that?
Friends, dare I even say, family. It has been a while.
Yes.
But we're back.
We are back.
Life has been very busy for the two of us.
Has it been busy?
I'd say so.
Yeah, not that busy, though.
I don't know about you. I've been very busy. I also have been very lazy. I can't blame it all on being... Because I will say, make no mistake, I have been extremely busy and kind of stretched thin at points lately.
Mm-hmm.
I also have been extremely lazy, and there have been several times where you and I have hung out. We're like, hey, we're going to do the podcast, right? And then we're like, no, actually, let's just play video games instead.
Let's not do the podcast.
And it's been wonderful. I've had a great time doing that.
Oh, 100%.
And, our friendship has done wonders because of it.
Yeah,
but
my failing on Resident Evil 2 at the highest level has really added new layers to our friendship.
Yeah, Mike and I had some good bonding time over this hiatus of the podcast. So... Really, to any of our dedicated listeners who missed us over this break, I hope that you will feel that our bond is stronger than ever, and we can bring you even more quality content because of that break. So, so we decided to hop back in with fulfilling a promise that we made.
A promise
that we made, that we were going to watch all of the Fast and Furious movies and make our way back to F9, and hopefully, at this rate, we can do it in time to see the Fast and Furious 10 movie that is currently in production, to the best of my knowledge.
Yes.
So it's been a while, not only since we've done an episode period, it's been a even longer period of time since we've done anything Fast and Furious related. And that's what got this whole ball rolling.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to our roots, and we watched Tokyo Drift tonight.
Yes.
What do you have to say about it, Mike?
I suppose I've now... Still haven't seen the fourth one, Fast and Furious, that is, I think.
I think so.
Yes. And I think that's the only other one that I've seen parts of. But this is the one that I saw, like, roughly. I thought it was 1/3. Now I realize it was, like, 1/5 of this film. And, I thought it would sustain me a little bit longer, I guess. Like, I thought, like, the kind of just... This one's very... What would you say?
I'd say one note.
Yes, I too would say one note. But like,
what would that note be?
Well, it's certainly the most like vibrant and hyperactive. It's almost the most hyperactive of the ones I've seen so far.
Okay.
Like this very like. There's a lot of bubblegum bright, vibrant colors and just fast action. Like everything you get from like the first films, but like almost like a montage of all those emotions instead of like a story where we hit those beats. It's almost just like one scene after another of all those things.
Yeah.
And so it certainly feels like the most, I don't know what madcap means, but I feel like that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I think Mad Cats... I'm sure it's also a phrase that you are referring to, but I know the term Mad Cat from those like knockoff video game controllers that you would get.
I don't know. Well, it's Mad Cap. Cap. As in
Mad
CAP.
Cap. Okay, well, all the same, I will say that I think kind of based on what you said, I would say that Tokyo Drift kind of feels like the Mad Catz version of like a Fast and Furious movie.
Amusingly eccentric,
you can still
by the way.
plug it into your PlayStation and it'll do the thing, but it like feels a little bit weird in your hand, and like it probably is one of the like translucent plastic ones where you can see all the inner mechanisms and all that.
Yes,
that's what Tokyo Drift is. I think.
Right on. Yeah, Madcap means amusingly eccentric, and I think that's That's more or less right.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty fitting as well. Madcap and Mad Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of cats, dear viewer, I got a cat. And I learned possibly last night that she's pregnant. We'll see.
She might be pregnant.
Yeah, we got her off of the street, and my girlfriend came over, and I was like, "Hey, look how fat the cat got. I think I need to like stop feeding her so much." And she was like, "Wow, you're right. She did get fat." And she was like, "Actually, I don't. This looks different than a fat cat." So we've compared a lot of images on Google. Mm-hmm. We've asked people we know who have had pregnant cats, and people seem very confident that she is pregnant. I'm not 100% sold yet, but you might be able to...
What will it take for you to become 100% sold?
A vet telling me that she's pregnant, or kittens coming.
Right.
That would probably put an end to the whole discussion. Yeah. But yeah, the mad cats, madcap.
So what are you going to do when the kittens come?
I guess it depends on how many there are, because I've heard that like they can have anywhere between like 1 and 12 in a litter. So like if it's like one, I was saying to Katie, if it's 2, if there were 2 kittens, I wouldn't mind keeping both of them.
Okay,
honestly, but anything above 2,
right,
I will probably keep 1 at the very least, but I cannot keep more than if there are more than 2 kittens, I cannot have them. So I will probably give them away / sell them.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well,
but Fast and Furious.
Yes.
So anything else you want to say? You want to hop right into this synopsis?
No, let's do it. Let's just go over it.
All right. So first off, we start with Sean is the character's name, as we found out very late in the movie. Sean is your typical high schooler, and by that I mean your typical person in their 20s playing a high schooler.
Yes.
And yeah, so he goes to a school that I don't know the name of, and their mascots are the Fighting Ducks, and they hate the Indians. And that they hate those dang Indians, and they make it seem like that's going to be something that comes up, but it doesn't. But yeah, so we see a very
you're right.
They played it up like, oh yeah, the
big game or something.
Maybe they could have had like the bully be like from the other school or something.
Maybe could have been that.
Whatever. All the same. We have Sean going to school and stuff, and we more or less get like a brief day in the life of Sean.
Yes.
And apparently this school, and I don't know, maybe this is a thing that schools do. I went to a nerdy school, so I don't know.
Right.
They just have like a class for working on cars.
Yes, it's called shop. Well, not wood shop, but like I don't know, Dickinson High School has one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm willing to accept that. Maybe schools do that. I just know that mine didn't. But all the same, we have him working on presumably his car in car shop class.
I don't think it's like students' cars. No.
Okay, he's working on a car in student car shop class.
Right.
And there is an overweight boy who is being picked on by some bullies.
Yep.
And they play it up as if Sean is gonna like beat the shit out of these kids and get Fresh Prince of Bel-Aired. And he he has like the fucking like wrench in his hand and everything.
Does, yeah.
And the bullies like look at him like, and then he just like puts the wrench down and walks away, and the poor kid just like keeps getting tormented.
Yeah.
And then school ends, and that
Sean
is
doesn't look stoked about it, but like he just walks away.
Yeah, and that is then school ends. So that is pretty much as far as we know Sean's typical school day.
Yeah, he'll go to school, work on cars,
and
leave,
do nothing.
Yeah,
to stop injustice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes out to the parking lot to leave, and parked next to him is a girl sitting in like a convertible red sports car type of thing. She's like, "Nice car," or something, and he's like, it gets the job done. She's like, "What job? Delivering pizzas?" And then I don't remember what he says.
He says it's not the ride, but the rider.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then boyfriend of attractive young lady in sports car. It's like, hey, you talking to my lady, man? And he's like, oh, well, she was just admiring my ride, which I don't know much about cars. I mean, both the cars look pretty nice. I mean, very different cars. But
they're cars.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, he's like, that shitty old thing? And he's like, it's pretty cool.
Maybe things were different in 2006, but when I was in high school, if you like had a car, like that in itself is just like right on, nice.
Also, like it looks like, I mean, again, I don't know much about cars at all, but like it seems like kind of like a vintage like Corvette style, or not maybe Corvette. Or no, like a Mustang style, like.
Which one are we talking about?
Sean's car.
Right.
Yeah, it looked kind of like a vintage like Mustang type thing, and like. I don't know. That seems pretty cool to me. But yeah, they're like, oh, this old piece of crap. I could outrace this with a blindfold on or something.
He said I could beat it with my mom's car.
Oh, yeah.
And then Sean's like, how about your daddy's car?
Inferring that this nice car is bought by his rich father.
Yeah, or is his dad's personal vehicle.
Yeah, all the same. Which then brings us to the next piece of dialogue where he's like, hey, this can do 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. And then all the guys are like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
His posse's like,
which, like,
that sounds right.
I don't know.
Right, bro.
As I said to Mike, I feel like the bigger burn is like, hey, you're a rich fucking asshole, and your dad either bought you this car because you're a brat or this is your dad's car. I feel like that is the bigger burn than, like, this car is faster than that car. But I don't know. I guess in Fast and Furious universe, that's not how interactions go.
It could be. I'm not sure.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. All the same, they're like, all right, let's race. And then they have some back and forth of like, oh, well, what are the stakes? And then the girl just goes, I am. Like, you'll race for me. To which, again, I said to Mike, I mean, if I was the jock boyfriend, I might want to be like, I don't know that I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
If that is even a possibility, I don't think I want this relationship to continue.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so they race, and they go to like, I suppose it's like a neighborhood that is like currently being currently under construction.
Yeah,
and they do their racing. Sean seems to be doing like okay, but then he basically any instance where he has to like drift to get the advantage, he just fucking like does terrible. He just like biffs it. And is that the word? I don't know.
No, I like that. We'll say he biffs it.
He biffs it. And yeah, so he just like fucking screws it up every time that he tries to drift. Basically causes an immense amount of property damage.
Yes. To get the lead again.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the car of the rich brat, his girlfriend is like,
he starts losing, and she turns to him and goes, I thought you loved me.
Yeah, that's right. Which again, red flag. That's not a healthy relationship, dude. Like,
that's you.
You know, count your cut your losses. And yeah, so then again he starts to lose even further, to which she says then, I guess I know who I'm taking to prom.
Right.
And then he's like, honestly, like he is like crying at this
he
point.
Looks like he's on the verge of a breakdown. He really
and again,
does.
like you can't really blame him. Like this is clearly not a healthy relationship.
No.
And then he then does the reckless thing of trying to wreck Sean's car because he's in such a rage.
Yep.
And then both the cars are taking quite a beating. And then they drive into a concrete tube thingy.
Yeah.
And then Sean's like, yay, I won. And then he like does like 10 barrel rolls.
Yeah.
And there's a very well placed Tabasco sauce ad placement.
Yes, it's very well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bottle floating around. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're in a police office, I guess, of some kind, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and the police officer pulls Sean into like the interrogation room or whatever it is, and he's like, they're watching the like playback
footage,
of it, and he's like, can I get a copy of that? And he's like, you think this is a game?
You think this is funny?
And then he's like, you see those two out there? They're gonna get off scot-free because they're rich.
Yeah.
But you, I get to ruin your life, buddy.
Oh, I'm so stoked. When I get a poor person in here, I just live for it.
Yeah, he's definitely really into it too.
Yeah, he's like, you're a guaranteed conviction.
And then Sean's mom comes in and is like, "Oh, hey, officer, maybe we could work something out."
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly that happens, and then Sean's like, where do we have to move to this time, Mom? Because apparently this is something that happens somewhat often.
Yeah.
And then she's like, not us. And then we have a cool transition of Sean sitting on a plane. And then the plane takes off. The plane lands.
Yep.
And he's in Tokyo.
Tokyo, baby.
Woo!
Like the movie.
Yeah.
Like the movie where he'll be drifting.
Yeah. Which apparently, it takes him a while to get the hang of that drift.
Oh, tell me about it.
But yeah. So he then is in Tokyo, and he meets his Navy father.
Meets?
Meets up with, I suppose. Yeah, he meets up with his Navy father, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, I'm here." And the dad's like, "I promised your mother I would keep you out of trouble, so you wouldn't have to go back to America and go to jail.
Right.
So don't get in trouble. If I even see you near a car, then back to America and to jail you go."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So keep off of busy streets.
Yeah, and then
Take on the alleyways.
that's more or less the meat and potatoes of that interaction.
Well, no, because he like knocks on his dad's door, and his dad's like, "Oh hell, Sean! Oh my God! I thought you were gonna get here at 7." And Sean's like, "It is 7," and his dad's like, Right. Let me give me 1 second."
Domo arigato, lady of the night.
Yes. So that's how they meet up for the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Sean's dad is like, you go to school, you come back here, and then you go to school again. That's what you do. That's your life.
Exactly.
No racing, no driving, none of that.
And then Sean goes to school the next day.
Goes to school, goes to Japan school.
And clearly, he needs a little bit of time to adjust to life in Japan.
Yes.
And by that I mean like 5 minutes of him like wandering around confused like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he goes to school in Japan.
Goes to class, yeah.
He pretty much immediately like just gets like heart eyes over the like one non-Japanese girl in his class.
Yes, that is true.
And then he's at lunch.
Yep.
And then we meet the character who is played by Bow Wow, and his name is Twinkie.
Yes.
Which in later scenes, in my opinion, really takes away from some of the heartfelt emotions that might be felt.
Yes.
But all the same, Twinkie is like, "Hey, I sell electronics and stuff. Do you want to buy something?"
Sean sees that on the front of his bag of goods, he has a steering wheel. And Sean's like, "Will you sell me that steering wheel?" And Bow Wow's like, "No, this is my steering wheel. I paid full price for this, and it's mine. I'm going to use it for my car." And Sean's like, "Well, then show me your car." And Bow Wow's like, "Hell yeah." So that's what they do.
Yeah. And then we see like this cool like Ferris wheel type like parking contraption that might be a thing in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, like we see that, and we see a couple like pretty nice cars, and we're like, "Oh, like, is that his?" Like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
And then we see like this like disgusting green colored car,
Disgusting.
and it looks like it has like a huge like dent in the back of it. And when Sean realizes that like this is like guy's car, his like smile of enthusiasm kind of falters a bit.
Yes.
And then the car gets pulled out, and we get like it's on like a like rotisserie like table type kind of deal, and so it rotates, and we get to see like the full detail of this car.
Yes.
And we see that it is actually a car that we mentioned in the F9 episode. The Hulk themed car.
Yeah.
Which again, looking back now that I say it, didn't play like any kind of role at all. Like the only time we see this car, like period, I think, is driving from here to the next destination.
I think it's around a couple other times, but like, it's not some like major thing.
I was surprised by that. I thought like, oh, this has got to be some big thing.
Would have been cool.
Yeah.
To see it play a part at some point.
It smashes other cars.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so we have the Incredible Hulk themed car. That, then they drive to the next happening spot, which is apparently a parking garage in Tokyo. Which, as far as we know, this is how all garages in Tokyo are.
Go, yeah.
But it essentially is like a parking garage where like a rave almost
high school
is
rave
happening.
party. Yeah,
and
that's
and
just
there's
going
like
down.
cars, and people are like admiring the cars and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's like a 80 to 20 female to male ratio.
Naturally.
And it's a, what would you say, Fast and Furious rave party going on in this parking garage in Tokyo. Which as far as I could tell, is just what parking garages in Tokyo must be like.
Yeah, certainly. And so they go to this place, and they see a few people just doing their thing.
Yep.
And specifically, though, they see that non-Japanese girl.
The very same.
That we saw in class earlier, whose name I can't remember. She's there. And so then Sean pretty much immediately is like, oh, hey, what's up? I don't know. I guess it was so...
Neela.
Neela, okay. I guess it was just like so unimportant to the story that maybe I just wasn't paying attention enough retroactively. But like, I feel like the conversation they were having was not like overly flirtatious. It was just a very like, oh, hey, like, nice to see you here. Like, what's up? I didn't expect to run into you here. I just saw you in class.
I don't know. It was standard Fast and Furious flirtatious.
Maybe it was. Again, I was not paying attention enough to really put any stock into how flirtatious.
She like pulls in the garage and talks to her technicians, and she's like, "The car's still not driving how I like to drive it." And her technicians are like, "That's because you drive wrong." And she's like, "Don't fucking tell me how I drive.
Yeah,
I'll tell you how I drive, and I'm telling you the car's not up to snuff." And so like Sean comes in and he's all like, I can't say the accent. Anyway, he's like, you'd accomplish more. Well, in a sultry tone, kind of. He's like, you'd have no problem if it was a V8. And then she's all like, boys only concerned about the engines and what have you. Just like that. And and
then we see a character who is named DK. Donkey Kong. He's the leader of the bunch. He is, in fact, the leader of the bunch. But the leader of the bunch, DK, he is on like the other side of the garage, and he sees this interaction happening, and he is not happy about it. And he kind of like signals to his posse. He's like, "Yo, we gotta go break up this conversation here."
Right.
And so they do that. They go over there, and he gets all up in Sean's face, and pretty much. I think he speaks in Japanese, and then Sean's like, huh? And then he's like, and then he kisses Nyla on the side of the face.
Well, he's like
does that answer it for you, Gaijin?
Yeah, right. He's basically like, fuck off, Gaijin. And he's like, I don't know what that means. And then like he kisses her, and he's like, you know what that means?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
But yeah, so he does that, and then Twinkie is like, yeah, dude, we should dip out. This is not a good scene.
Well. This is the first point where Twinkie mentions pretty blatantly to Sean. He's like, "Yo, he's Yakuza. Like, you don't fuck with him."
Mm-hmm.
And Sean's like,
He's
He's like, no, I don't like you, buddy. I don't like you and your face, your attitude.
And us Americans don't back down.
Yeah, evidently.
But yeah, so he's like, hey, I want to race you. And then DK's like, do you even have a car? And he's like, hey, never mind if I have a car. I want to race.
Yeah, right.
And then another gentleman by the name of Han, who's just been munching on like goldfish.
I was kind of hanging out with DK.
He just like tosses Sean his keys and is like, take my car, stranger. Yes. And Sean doesn't ask any questions about this and just hops right in.
No concern.
And so this race, as opposed to the initial race with the rich brat dude, while that one had some drifting, as mentioned, it was not a very integral part the racing.
Yeah.
You know, like there were some turns that
the
you
racing could have been accomplished
efficiently
without drifting. Yeah.
Exactly. This is not the case.
This is a drift exhibition, more or less.
This is, in fact, if you've ever been in any kind of parking garage, you would probably know that that a lot of them have like these ramps that kind of take you to the next level.
Yeah, there's not a lot of
and you more or less
straightaways.
have to like make a U-turn when you get to the end of one ramp to then go on like the other ramp.
Right.
And so naturally, these people are drifting and with extreme precision to make it to the top.
Yes. And before the race begins, Twinkie's talking to Sean, and Sean's kind of like, so tell me about this car. And Twinkie's like, look, it's a really nice car, and it's not your car, so, just like do what you do and kick his ass. And Sean's like, all right, that's good. And what if I needed to learn to drift like right now? And Twinkie starts going into it a little bit. He's like, all right, well, the easiest way is to pull the handbrake. You pull the handbrake and then throttle something. I don't know how to drift. I don't know the mechanics behind it. But then, like, after Twinkie's explaining it a bit, and Sean's kind of like, yeah.
Clearly, like, kind of in one ear, out the other.
Yeah, Twinkie's like, you know what? Just don't fuck up the car. Like, just don't fuck it up. And anyway, go.
Best of luck to you, buddy.
Yeah, give it your best, Tiger.
And he certainly gives it his best, but his best is unfortunately not enough.
Not even close.
Yeah,
it's an embarrassment.
Yeah, no, it really is. Like, you feel secondhand embarrassment for him throughout this. And he's like really confident throughout all this, though, which props to him.
He tries and tries again. Every single turn is met with like him crashing this car into some piece of concrete.
And the people who are spectating like catch on very quickly that like anytime that he's coming, they just run.
They just start clearing. Yeah.
But yeah, so needless to say, DK like fucking mops the floor.
Cleans it. Yeah,
like,
the cleanest run of the course.
It's fucking awesome, honestly. Like by the end, I'm very much rooting for DK.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Sean makes it to the end, and he's like literally like bumbling into like barriers and stuff, and like when the race is over, like trying to make it to the end.
It's bad.
And and pretty much he goes home in shame. I don't even think there's really like much interaction after
Well, he goes
that.
home and his daddy's like, "You've been racing."
Yeah.
Sean's like, "Whatever, Dad." And his dad's like, "Look, I'll tell you straight up. If you race, you're not staying here,
And if you're
and
not
you have nowhere to
here,
go."
you're going to jail.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Where are you gonna go? Nowhere. So no racing."
Yeah. And then the next day comes around. He goes to school, I guess. We don't see that.
Yeah.
And then after school, I guess, he is, I think, more or less intercepted by Han, that guy who loaned him the car.
Yeah.
And is pretty much like, hey, you're coming with me.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, let me call my dad. And then, like, payphone calls his dad. And despite his dad being like, you can't go anywhere, you have no place to go, he's like, hey, Dad, I'm not coming home at the time we talked about. And then that's pretty much it.
Right.
And yeah, so he rides around with Han.
Mm-hmm.
And Han takes him to essentially it's like some kind of like spa bath place, right?
Yeah.
So he takes him to like a nice spa bath place, and he's like, "Hey, you're gonna go in there and collect some money for me that I'm owed." And Sean is more or less like, "Okay, I guess I'll do that because I owe you a car." And so he goes in and looks for the guy via the descriptor that was given to him by
he has
Han.
a paw.
And he sees a very large gentleman.
Yes.
And he, assumingly, is like, hey, can I collect this money from you? And then we see him get thrown out of said establishment by said gentleman. But then the gentleman throws the cash to Han. So he was successful in some regard.
Yeah.
And then Han's like, all right, you get behind the wheel now, buddy. And then they drive around for a bit, and Han is like, all right, yeah, you're going to like do this for me now. You're going to keep collecting money for me and stuff because, again, you owe me a car. And that's that. And then Sean's like, and you'll teach me to drift. And he's like, it's not really a negotiation here. And he's like, I wasn't negotiating.
Right.
Which, as Mike and I were saying during our viewing, he's like again, very confident, given that he's like apparently talking to a Yakuza member.
Right.
And we learn more or less that the police can't do jack shit because they don't have fast enough cars to do anything. So if you are wondering why the police are not doing anything to stop any of this illegal street racing, that is your answer. They can't.
Yes.
Yeah. And so now we get some insight into DK's life, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Because DK, as we've established, is Yakuza. But here we learn he's not quite Yakuza. He is kind of, as Han puts it, like a wannabe Yakuza, because his uncle is like actually a Yakuza dude. And so he kind of just like has this turf that he like basically does mafia Yakuza type stuff for his uncle, but he kind of like thinks he's hot shit because he's the guy running the block.
Yeah, he's basically a mule or whatever for whatever his uncle's doing.
Yeah.
And his uncle grants him and his friend a cut, well, him and Han, because they're partners in dealing the Yakuza's business through his uncle's kind of branch or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get like a sit-in briefly where Han brings Sean to a little meeting between DK, Han, and like third henchman who I don't remember the name of, but is like just the third in line behind Han. So they have a brief meeting where DK is like, all right, Han, let's go over like the details of whatever thing we're doing, like our little project in distribution, and let's talk the money. And Han's like, when did you start worrying about details? Like, don't you worry about it. Leave it to me. We're all good. And DK's like, all right, I trust you. That's okay. And Han's like, cool. Anyway, I'm going to go now with this new Sean fella. Han has a little like garage that he kind of operates out of as like a hangout spot / like crash pad, I guess. Because he has like little sleeper pods and shit, so that's weird. But yeah.
Also, it said that like I mean, of course, he's making a lot of money, or we assume he's making a lot of money off this whole like Yakuza racket. But it's also just said like Han specifically, like money's not really a problem for him.
Yeah, right. He's like, I have a bunch of money, because Sean's like, why did you give me that car? And Han's like, I have tons of cars and tons of money, so like to hand out a car to see the kind of like character fiber of a dude who wants to try to race is worth more than any like one car.
Yeah, he's basically like, I like the cut of you, fella.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So I don't care that I lost a car.
And you can really learn about a man's soul when you loan him your car frivolously and let him try to drift.
Exactly.
And
and thus here I'm gifting you another car.
Yes.
And so he does. He gifts him a car. Then I believe we then get to see Sean try to drift and suck at it.
Yes, it's really bad.
Yeah.
He's at like a fishing dock, and fishermen are watching him drift, and they're like, he's a terrible drifter.
Yeah.
And his friends are watching him drift, and they're like, oh my God, this sucks.
Man,
oh my God, this is bad. This is so bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I guess after that, I think he like goes to school the next day. Because again, also at this point, like his dad just doesn't care now, I guess.
Yeah, and there's like a brief scene where like his dad's working on this old like shell of a car. Like there's not an engine in there. It's nothing. It's just a shell of a car. But like Sean comes in and it's like, hey Dad, what you working on? And his dad's like, oh, this is a car.
Yeah.
And Sean's like, it has potential. And that's their first like moment of father-sonliness. But as soon as like they reach that moment, like Sean's dad is like, you'll be late for school. And Sean's like, all right, see you, Dad.
Yeah, so then Sean goes to school, and pretty much immediately, like some people grab him and are like, yo, like, come upstairs. And he does come upstairs, and he sees Twinkie getting his ass beat by a dude. And the dude is like, you fucking sold me a broken iPod, and I'm going to kick your ass for it.
Well, he's getting beat up by the third in command.
Is it?
Yakuza fella.
Okay,
yeah. So it's like the dude below Han from the meeting.
And so then Sean steps in and breaks up the fight, and then grabs a non-broken
Stands
iPod.
his ground. Stands his ground first. Let's come on, Sean. He shoves him a little bit. He's like, I would fight you. I could fight you.
But I won't.
I'm going to give you my iPod instead.
Yeah. So then he does that. He gives a non-broken iPod to him, and it's like, there you go. Here's your freaking iPod. And then the dude, I guess does a disrespectful gesture, like spitting into his hand or something like that.
Yeah, it has to be something. Yeah.
But then is more or less like, all right, I guess I got what I came here for, and then he
An
leaves.
iPod. Yeah.
And then Twinkie's like, what the hell, man? Like,
He's like, now everybody that I sold a broken iPod to is going to come to me being like, hey, replace my iPod.
Yeah, Mike and I were saying his racket is that he just like sells people broken shit and then takes the beating. That's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah, because they get real mad and then they beat him up. But everyone keeps buying his shit. And then they just know they get to beat him up when it's broken.
Yeah.
So, it's the trade-off.
Yeah, so that happens. And then yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I guess more drifting here and there.
Well, there's some part where Sean, like, first off, like, at some point early in the film, Neela was coming into, like, DK's, like, area when Sean was leaving, and Sean's like, what's your story? And Neela's like, I don't have a story, and you don't know the first thing about me. And Sean's like, let me guess, like, you, like, I, and, like, Twinkie is, like, are like, an army brat, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, when you finally, like, bounced around from, like, area to area, you came here and settled down as an outsider with the rest of the outsiders, and finally like found a place to like call home, settling down with like DK.
So earlier in the film is when she was like, I don't have a story.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of that conversation. Right. And then
at some point, which I'm going to say is now, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Like they like meet up and he kind of like talks to her a little bit about like her story.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, I bet you this, and this," and she's like, "No, blah 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 blah."
Yeah, but like now,
and they have a heart to heart and give their backstories.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I don't know I completely forget how they wind up in the same area or why they're talking now or wherever. But anyway, after that happens, we're back at the docks and there's more drifting going on where Sean's like learning, and there's some point where Han like takes Sean to the mountain, and he's like, the original drifters learned to drift here in the mountains.
I must have been checked out for that. I don't remember that.
Yeah, because like he takes him to the mountain where the film culminates eventually, and Han's like when people wanted to learn how to drift for the first time, they just came to these mountain roads and like felt it out. He's like, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna like drift down this mountain and like feel it out. And so there's just like a montage of Sean and Twinkie like selling Twinkie's wares, and then like back to like montages of him like drifting on the mountain and Han being like, again, do it again, and he's like slightly improving, and he has like frustrated expressions, but then like slightly less frustrated expressions, and like flash cut between that and like him and Twinkie like selling iPods and shit in Tokyo. Yeah. And so eventually he gets his drifting down enough that like the people at the fishing docks are like, he's not bad at drifting, and that's how you know. And,
exactly.
And so at some point, like in between that, before or after, this is when him and Neela have their heart to heart.
They had their heart to heart. He has his sick compilation of getting better. And then they're like in school and they're instant messaging on their 2000 laptops.
Yes. And
he's like, how come I've never seen you drift? She's like, because you've never asked. And then they drive together, and she like shows how much of a badass drifter she is.
Well, it's important to note that like they go drift on the mountain where Sean's learning to drift, like the mountain of drifting, and that's what they're doing. But like they're one car of like 5 or 6 cars that are all like drifting in a line.
Yeah, I related
together.
it to like in the way that you'd see like a line of deer like hopping a fence. Like you see just each one just like at one after the other. It was like that, but drifting around a turn with like 5 cars.
Yeah, so it's like her and Sean in her car and like 5 other cars all drifting together down this mountain. And she's kind of like regaling Sean of the tale about how like her and all the kids used to come to this mountain and just like drift for fun, and all of them had like beaters and like bad cars and shit, and they would just drift down this mountain and get away from it all, you know. And like Sean and her connect over this like the very freeing sensation of like racing and driving a car really well and just going vroom, and how freeing that is. And so they connect over that.
And then
in the moonlight, anyway.
In the moonlight, and it's very cool. And then we have back at the docks. They're going at it again. They're testing Sean's drifting capabilities, and he's getting pretty good at it now.
Yeah.
So much so that he's like already in that day like worn out like 3 sets of tires by just drifting constantly.
Yeah.
And so he's about ready to like put another set on, and Twinkie's like, "Yo, dude, this is costing a lot of money."
Yeah. Right.
But before Sean can have a rebuttal to that comment. DK pulls up, and Han's like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And he just walks right past Han and just starts beating the shit out of Sean. And he's like, "Stay away from my girl." Okay, I'm leaving now. And that's that. Then the next day, we see Sean come into school, and he's all bruised up. And Neela just kind of gives him a look of knowing. And yeah, that's
immediately goes up to DK. And is like walks into like his school office or whatever it is. Like, I honestly have no idea what the deal is. But she immediately goes to some office of DK's, and it's like, yeah, all right, we're done. And he's like, he's like, what? It's stupid. He's like, why would we be done? He's like, look, you and I are the same. The difference is like I know who I am and I know my place. Do you know who you are? Do you know your place? Because I do, and I don't think you do. And she's like, yeah, whatever, DK, and she leaves.
Yeah. And then I think more or less right after that, DK is actually I think like literally right after she leaves, DK's uncle, who just like is just straight up dressed like your stereotypical like mafiosa kind of dude. I don't know if that's how Yakuza dress, but either way, I like it. But he comes in and he's like, "Well, nephew, your freaking partner." I've gone over the books, and there is no way that your partner has not stolen a shit ton of money from us.
Right.
And DK is more or less like, no, like there's no way, he's good. And the uncle's like, no, like this is not adding up. You got to do something about it.
Yeah, he's like, even if my partner was stealing from us, it couldn't be that much, because I surely would have seen it if he was doing that. And the uncle's like, Let me tell you a saying.
A very long saying that you will be sure to understand.
Yeah.
And so he does
basically
that.
It's the butterfly effect in saying.
So then cut to Han's hangout that we mentioned.
All right, here's the saying. So the saying is this. It is, if not for a missing nail, the horseshoe would have been secured to the horse's foot. And if the horseshoe had been secured to the horse's foot, the horse could have carried the messenger. And if the messenger could have been carried by his horse that wasn't carried because of the horseshoe, because of the missing nail, then that messenger could have got that message to the general and saved the war. So, it's one of these sayings to note how the smallest problems can build and build into even bigger catastrophes. So if your partner is stealing even like a tiny amount of fucking money from us, we're all fucked. So get your shit together, DK.
Guys, how mad do you think Mike will be when he finds out how much money I've embezzled from the What the Hell Was That podcast?
All 5 cents? You've taken all 5 cents?
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm going to have to really cook the books. But yeah, so then we cut to Han's hangout pad, and everybody, the whole main cast is like hanging out there.
Now Neela as well.
Yeah. And DK and his crew pull up. And again, Han's like, "Hey, what's up, man?"
Yeah.
And then immediately they just start like beating the shit out of him, I think.
Yeah, like immediately DK starts punching him.
Yeah. But then the crew knows what's going on, and they have like I guess more or less an escape plan. Like,
well, Han's like, okay, because DK like punches him, and Han's like, "What's the deal?"
Yeah.
And DK's like, "You're stealing from the fucking Yakuza, from me. Like, I trusted you. I put my reputation on the line and told them you were good, and you're
Han
stealing
pretty much,
money."
First off, is just like, "Fuck you!" Like, I stole the money, and you should.
Exactly. He's like, because he's like, I put my reputation and you're stealing from me. And Han's like, yeah, man, we're the Yakuza. Like, we're not Boy Scouts. This is what we do. And then DK pulls a gun on him, and it's like, it's just what we do.
Yeah. And But the rest of the crew knows what's up, and they like do like a whole like escape plan.
Scatter.
Where they like close the garage doors and like incapacitate their cars temporarily while they make a break for it, and they do that. And then we have like a high-speed car chase, and it's through the city.
Yes, because we have Sean and Neela in one car.
Yep.
Then we have Han. Then we have DK, and then we have the third in command, Lackey, that was beating up Twinkie, and also in sometime in the drifting montage, lost a race to Sean. But yes, so those four are like running through the streets of Tokyo as Han is the front, Sean is right behind with Neela in tow. And then you got DK and the third in command chasing both of them through the streets of Tokyo as they do all kinds of wonderful car choreography.
Yeah, and they're all doing pretty well this time.
Yeah. It's pretty nice.
And that's pretty much the long and short of that. They're doing it.
Favorite part, real quick.
Stuff.
Favorite part of it. Sean at some point takes the lead and is barreling towards a large crosswalk of people that like they were looking down on like earlier in the film, talking about like following rules and shit or whatever.
Yeah.
And Sean is like barreling towards these people, and Neela's like, Sean, oh my god, all these people. And Sean's like, oh my god, what will I do? So he starts honking, not slowing down or anything. Like, he's just honking, and eventually the people clear and make a perfect like drift path for him and all the other cars to like drift through this crowd of people cleanly. Beautiful.
Yeah, no, it really was phenomenal. But yeah, so I guess basically bullet points of what happens in this. The drifting car combat. Second or third in command dude crashes into a car while trying to run Sean off the road.
And creates quite the pile up on the highway.
So Sean is now like basically safe and is still
Sean's in the
barreling.
lead as Han and DK are in like third and second, as it were.
Yeah.
And like DK is now like reverse driving in front of Han's car, like shooting windshield to windshield.
Yeah. So he's clearly like out to kill.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then again, Sean and Neela are like at like a safe point, and then shooting happens, and some way or another, Han's car just fucking like flips like 3 or 4 fucking times.
Yeah.
And then he's like laying in the car that's like just like busted up upside down. And then it just straight up fucking explodes.
Yeah, no shit, yeah.
And Han dies.
Yep.
Spoiler alert, unless you've seen F9 and know that he is still alive. But
or unless you've listened to this podcast now.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, Nate.
Oh, come on. They know what they're in for.
Oh, yeah?
We're giving the plot beat for beat.
Yeah, so Han's dead right now.
Han's dead. Forget what I just said.
Han will not be alive until F9 decides he's alive again for some reason.
Yeah.
But he's dead.
He's dead. He's dead for real. And so then Sean mourns his loss. And he's like ready to go home, basically. And so he and Neela like show up at his dad's like doorstep, getting ready to just go in for the night, I guess.
Yep.
But then DK pulls up and is like, "Oh, we're not done here." And I think more or less immediately pulls out a gun on.
Yeah,
them.
well, he's like, Neela, get in the car.
Yeah.
And Neela's like, nah, okay. And Sean's like, fuck that. And like runs up and like punches DK. And then DK like pulls a gun on him.
Yeah.
And then like Sean's dad comes out. Like this
Out of the
guy's like
shadows.
has to be at least 40. And he's pulling a gun on a high schooler who, granted, has a gun pointed at his son. So that's all fair. But yeah, so this guy pulls a gun. Sean's dad pulls a gun on DK, who has a gun on Sean.
And then DK is like, "All right, fine, I'll get out of here." Well, actually, I guess first Neela's like, "Fine, I'll go."
Yeah.
Which I mean, again, I feel like the gun held by the dad kind of made that not necessary.
Yeah,
but, you know,
she's like, "No, all right, I'll go with you, DK."
Yeah, she's trying to defuse the situation. Good for her. And yeah, so then DK is like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll get you when your dad's not around."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they leave.
So Sean's dad then is like, all right, well, I'm calling you a plane back to the United States then.
Yeah, and then Sean's like, "Dad, come on. This is my mess. I gotta clean it." And the dad's just like, "Okay, what the fuck?"
I understand that, son.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah, and so he's like, all right, son, drift in Tokyo.
Yeah, right.
So then Sean does the sensible thing and goes to the Yakuza hideout and goes up to the uncle and is like, hey, your nephew and myself have made asses of ourselves.
Right.
And the uncle is... Well, first, DK is like, don't listen to him!
Yeah, because Sean's like, yeah, we've been an embarrassment. And DK's like, no, we haven't. And his uncle's like, you've been an embarrassment. And DK's like, I'm sorry, uncle.
Yeah, and then the uncle's like, go on then. And then Sean says, and thus, the only way to restore our honor is to have a race for some reason.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I have a solution that is worthy of all the regality and seriousness of the Yakuza. And his uncle's like, all right, what do you propose? And Sean's like, we race.
And and so the uncle is like, this intrigues me.
Yeah.
And then DK's like, I beat him before already. I don't need to do this. And then the uncle's like, then it seems that this should be easy for you.
Yeah, right.
And then cut to that mountain that we mentioned, Drift Mountain.
Drift Mountain. I'm going to get more water real quick. Okay. But Drift Mountain.
Yeah, Drift Mountain. And not only, I feel like this is the point where Twinkie's like, oh, yeah, by the way, DK is like the king of Drift Mountain. And not only that, but like, Drift Mountain is like hard to drift on. It's not like the places that we've like practiced on most of the time. So good luck with that. And so then the racing commences. And it's neat. It's cool. They're drifting. They're sliding. They're racing. And they seem pretty evenly matched for a good deal of it. Until DK kind of starts... drifting dirty and tries to like push him off the side of the mountain. And so they do that. There's a lot of back and forth until basically then there's this one like spot, I guess, where DK is like, I can ram into the side of him and he'll fly off this cliff.
Yes.
And so then he attempts to do that and Sean is like, more or less like, I saw you trying to do that, so I will pump my brakes so you'll not hit me and go flying.
And in fact, go plummeting off this cliff.
And so he does that, and he does like 5 front flips on this car.
Christ,
and then effectively, Sean wins like immediately after that because they have now like reached the bottom. And then everybody is just like, yay, he fell.
Dude, the way they cut this makes it seem like they are feverishly cheering because he plummeted off the cliff. Like, it's really whack.
Yeah, and it takes a good bit for them to like check on him to make sure he did not suffer the same fate as Han. But he's okay now.
That being death.
Yeah. And then sorry, I just remembered the ending. And so then Yakuza boss comes up and is like, all right, Neela and Sean, you're free to go. And then he walks away. And then I think basically cut back to car rave parking garage that kind of this all started at. It all comes full circle. And now Sean's like just hanging out, you know? He's like one of the gang around here now. He's proved himself. So he's like, he's got some standing here. And then somebody, I guess, comes up and is like, hey, a friend of Han's is here and they want to race you. And Sean's like, a friend of Han's? Like, okay, like I can do that. And so then he pulls up in his car in which he won the race with. And we pull up next to this car, and then the slow reveal: who could possibly be in this car?
Real quick, of
course,
because I have to mention this. Like when the new challenger is announced by Twinkie, he comes up to Sean and he's like, "Someone wants to race the new DK,"
of course.
And he's like, "Yeah, well, look, I'm not racing today. Tell him he has to wait." And fucking Twinkie goes, he says you knew Han. says he was family.
And so then he pulls up next to this car, and then the slow pan reveal. And as soon as the camera pans to the car of this Challenger, we have some kind of Latin-esque music.
Yeah,
that,
right.
Indicates who this perhaps might be.
Right.
And then slow pan to the window. And who else but Vin Diesel is smiling and says,
God.
"Hey," he's like, "I won this car or something from Han.
My friend Han gave it to me a couple of years ago." Now, look, I don't know how old Dominic Toretto is supposed to be. I don't know what happened to Vin Diesel between 2001 and 2006 that he looks like 10 years older than he did in the Fast and Furious. And it's only 5 years removed, so I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Dominic Toretto just said, and mind you, Han is a high schooler in Japan at the time of this film. So that has to make him 17, 19, maybe tops?
I will say I don't necessarily know that Han is a high schooler.
I see.
I mean, it makes sense that he is, given that he's hanging out with all of these high schoolers and stuff. And actually, I come to think of it, I don't know that. Actually, no, I take that back, because I remember when DK is basically in the beginning of the whole kit and caboodle.
Right.
It's like, hey, we got to go stop this interaction here, and then one of the dudes is like, you got to stop it with the schoolgirls, man.
Right.
Perhaps insinuating that he himself is not.
Right. That makes sense.
All the same, though, I think your point still stands. I can't imagine that they're very old.
He seems significantly younger than Vin Diesel, I guess is my point.
Yes.
So when Vin Diesel is like, my friend Han gave it to me a few years ago, it's like, okay. Did he? How old was he? How old were you? How did you even meet him? Anyway, yes. Oh, Vin Diesel.
But then that's the end of the movie. And I'll reiterate to Mike, kind of my thoughts coming out of the movie initially was that scene alone personally made it worth it to me.
Yeah.
I definitely think that was the highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do you have anything else really to say about it before we get into reviews?
Everyone films the race on Drift Mountains on flip phones.
Yes.
That I guess they're tapping into a live stream of collectively to get each camera angle because they're all reacting to it in real time.
And
so
they
that
have assumingly pretty good resolution for those.
Other than that, yeah, we missed the scene where Sean races the third in command lackey back at the parking garage and wins the race while the lackey flips out at the top of the ramp there.
That might have been when I was getting food.
Yeah. So that one. Other than that, no notes.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I don't think this is a bad movie, but not particularly great.
Well, I mean, there were some filler scenes and stuff of parties with girls with 60% skin revealed minimum requirements and stuff like that, and dancing and music that goes stuff like that.
Yeah, because this movie, I might be wrong, but I don't think this is a very long movie. I think it's only an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay. I could believe that.
But it felt long and drawn out to me.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, how would you rate it? How would you rate it in relation to the other Fast and Furious movies we've seen so far?
Well, it just feels different than the other two. Maybe it's because it focuses on high schoolers and a high school beef in Japan, as opposed to Dom Toretto or Paul Walker or anything like that.
Yeah,
there's no cops shouting.
Yeah, I feel like the stakes were pretty low compared to the other ones.
Yeah, true. So I don't really know. Feels like a different kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would have liked this setting and kind of film with the strength of characters and actors from the first two films. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I think aside from Han, there aren't really any characters who are like really that appealing in this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I liked Han; he was cool.
Yeah,
but everybody else like didn't really have like a whole lot going for them.
Like I think DK did cool, but like we didn't really see a whole lot of DK.
Yeah,
you know, until like the end when he became suddenly much more relevant.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
No, I understand.
It didn't really do it for me, but I liked the idea, but the execution of it just fell flat.
Yeah, I guess I would say, again, to reiterate, I don't necessarily think this is a bad movie, but I think, so I'm not going to include the 9th film yet because I think that it would be better to compare those to the others as we get more along in the progression, because it's so far removed, it's really hard to compare it to these first 3 movies. So, of the first 3 movies, I think this has been my least favorite so far.
Mm-hmm.
But not to say it's bad, again.
Trying to think.
Because I remember, again, we really liked the first one.
Yes.
The first one, pretty dang good.
Yeah, I had fun, yeah.
I think the second one, I remember it was like fine, but compared to the first one was kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one's kind of the same deal. Like, yeah, it's fine, but compared to even the second one, this is kind of almost even a little bit more of a letdown. For me, at least.
Yeah, I have to juggle between the second one and this one, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all the same, are you ready to read some reviews?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to go first, or would you like me to?
You go first.
All right, cool. So I just have one review. I think we're both just reading one review today. This is from Mr. Miles L.
Okay.
And it reads, honestly, this movie is probably the most cliche movie I've ever seen. The story has no motive whatsoever. The movie has a lot of nice cars, but it feels like the producers used that as a way to bail them out of actually coming up with a good storyline. Let me give you the whole plot. A white kid goes to an extremely unrealistic high school with egomaniac schoolmates, and while the guy gets kicked out of school, he goes to Japan to again go to school with even more psychotic Japanese teens. There is literally no point to the movie. Even the kid's dad is a complete idiot and lets his son risk his life for a race. You've got to be kidding me. This movie was so bad, it made my stomach hurt. 59 people found this helpful. Again, I mean, I have a broken record. I didn't hate this movie. I didn't think it was particularly bad, but I do think most of those points are pretty valid.
Yeah, I'm going to do 2.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to read the 1-star rating from 2001 Honda Civic.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is so bad.
How bad
and it's
is it?
the last one about actually cars, which is... The story is so bad. The main character is the most stupid and R-word, with no motivation except a girl. The plot is stupid. The villain is okay, I guess. The cars are cool, but the dad is just bad. The opening 20 minutes is beyond painful. It makes me want to die. The best part about this movie is Han, and the worst part is the rest of the movie, except the final race. I just want to know how they came up with the plot. Like, did a 3-year-old write this? The idea of it being in Tokyo is good. Han is good. The cars are good. The final race is good. And the villain has a good backstory and his, like, family and stuff. Han should have been the main character. You know, I kind of agree with that. I mean, like, you could trim the fat off of that review by just removing the amount of times he's like, stupid. That was good. Stupid. That was pretty good, though. Stupid.
Yeah, I will say that, like, Sean didn't really, like, bring anything to the table, you know?
Yeah, honestly, frankly, if this was just a movie about, like, Han and DK and they're falling out, like, it would have been a better movie, I think, frankly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I would definitely agree with that.
Like, Sean did not need to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a lot of... Yeah, I don't know. There weren't really, like, many important characters, you know? Yeah, no, I think that's pretty valid.
All right, so the 5-star multi-paragraph defense of the film, then.
Okay, let's go. Let's do it.
Here we go. Chris Privacy says, Actually, one of the most underrated movies of all time. Destined to become a cult classic in future before eventually being rediscovered in the mainstream for the awesome that it truly is. Great writing, music selection, solid performances, and location-loving photography fly beneath the critics' radar, who are seemingly blinded by the headlights of the simple tropes they identify. But the film is so much more than its familiar tropes. Prejudiced critics are just blinded by their desire to put a car action flick into the non-serious box, too scared to be seen to endorse or even find kinship with the very real universe its fleshed-out characters inhabit. The film captures Tokyo at its most over-the-top eternal neon city peak, full of alt-fashion-loving energetic youth, swarming to a moving soundtrack, pushed forward by a universal and nuanced story about coming of age, love, responsibility, and right and wrong. It's up there with East of Eden, but because it's part of a car-loving action flick franchise, most critics will be hobbled in their ability to appreciate it for the next 60 years. The emotional climax is also the visual climax and music climax, drifting in the mountains near Tokyo. It's a really fantastically paced, entertaining, well-performed, and beautifully shot classic. Give it a try, and go to it without trying to pick holes, and if you're open, you'll be delightfully surprised and rewarded for your lack of bias and empathy with this wonderful film.
Can't say I agree.
Can't say I agree either. I mean, God bless them. I kind of get what they're saying. It's almost like, no, it just doesn't work for me on that level. I can see where they're coming from, and the film clearly also wants that to be the kind of take. And so, if it's the kind of thing. Because here's what's weird to me is, like, I would think that this kind of environment and setting and story is one that I would like. I'm open.
Mm-hmm.
It seems within my wheelhouse, but it just didn't work for me. I think Sean really does make it a rough movie to kind of get down with for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I will say as a counterpoint to come in not wanting to pick holes, again, it has been so long since we have watched, I mean, again, any movie for the podcast, but specifically a Fast and Furious movie, that, like, this to some extent was coming in with fresh eyes, you know? Like,
right.
We didn't have any kind of, like, preconceived, like, oh, this is going to be so goofy.
Oh, yeah,
or,
no.
Oh, the last couple movies were actually surprisingly really good, so this is what we expect.
Right.
Yeah, for me, at the very least, it was like, I am coming in with a completely fresh palette. And, yeah, it didn't really do it for me. I think the thing is that, like, again, I agree with the pretty much both the negative reviews that we've said, just not so harshly. Like, I think, like, as it stands, it's an entertaining enough movie. Like, it's not a really, really bad movie, but I do think that the points that have been mentioned would take it from being, like, a really average movie that has cool cars and cool action scenes to a pretty compelling story.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think this person wants to do a pretty serious read on this film. Probably more serious than, like, it seems like even the filmmakers wanted to do for this film. So that.
Yeah, that's true. It's not that deep, bro.
Not that deep. Drifting in Tokyo.
Yeah. Well, are you ready to do some ratings, Mike?
Let's do it.
Let's do some ratings. Would you like to go first?
Yes.
All right, let's go.
The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift has drifted into my heart and right back out of it. Unfortunately, the first fifth of this film made me, when I saw it 3 years ago, built me up for a rest of a film that just didn't quite live up to it. And in many ways, the corniness of the main character kind of got old to me pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I suppose that's quite all right. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Morhan would have done the movie better, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and give it a out of.
Respectable, I think. Yeah, that is definitely respectable.
Just how I feel.
Yeah, this movie, I really don't know how to feel about it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm pretty biased because I'm just excited that we are doing an episode again, and so with that, I could watch a movie that is pretty subpar and just be satisfied that we're doing this again. So maybe that feeds into it. Maybe under different circumstances, I would have felt like this was a more offensively boring movie. Because I will say, I mean, again, I was pretty bored at times.
Right.
But it's another installment in a series that continues to surprise me in both good and bad ways, and I'm excited to see where the series gets taken in the next installment. And I think I have to put that aside, though, and not give this a rating based on what this movie is in relation to the franchise as a stepping stone into something bigger and the reintroduction of Dom Toretto. I think I need to look past that and rate this as its own movie. And as its own movie, this gets no better than a out of. And that, unfortunately, is the sad truth.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that.
Yeah. But if you want to see some cool drifting and at least one really compelling character, then check out Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, the car shots were all right. Good stuff. Good stuff. If that's the thing you like, then it's good. If you're really about what Fast and Furious is about, then like this is a perfectly fine movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're just too big-brained for it.
Oh yeah. That's it.
Of course. Yeah. Well, we're now officially 1/3 through the series.
Oh yeah. Hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Yep. So 1/3 through the series, of course, until they release the 10th film.
Right.
And so with that, again, I am very curious to see when the shark is jumped.
Right.
Because there's a point where you're going to have the last movie where you did some drifting and racing.
Right.
And the next movie when you were driving a submarine on a glacier or something like that. So I can't wait to see.
It's got to be 5 or 6, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So I guess before we go, I will say I believe that I have heard that they have officially named the next Fast and Furious movie Fast X.
Boo.
I know. As you know, I have been very heavily campaigning for them to name it Fast 10 Year Seatbelts.
Yes.
So unfortunately, it seems that my demands have not been met. And there will be hell to pay for it, but that is for another day.
Last one was what, F9, right?
Yeah, F9, the Fast Saga.
Yes.
And also, I believe I have seen some stuff about them having gone through like a couple directors already for creative differences. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
How's that for family?
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure Brie Larson, I think, joined the cast of Fast
why not?
X.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Is John Cena still going to be there?
I don't know. Let's see. Let's see
The
if
Rock
there's any
gonna be
news
there?
says. I feel like The Rock isn't, because I feel like there was like, I don't know. I feel like there was something about them not wanting to have The Rock or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Fast X is an upcoming American action film directed by Louis Leterrier and written by Justin Lin and Dan Mazow. It is a sequel to F9, serving as the 10th main installment and the 11th feature film in the Fast and Furious franchise. Okay, that didn't really give us anything we didn't already know.
There you go.
Well, there we go. Fast X. Well, it says we have till 2023, so we have to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, I'm sure that by the time, of course, when we're recording this, it's going to be, I think, a good deal of time before we actually upload this, so we can get an actual backlog of content and have regularly scheduled episodes to some extent, and not have extended breaks like this.
Right.
We are glad to be back, And
Yes.
please give us your recommendations for movies you want us to watch.
Oh, yes.
Again, it might be a while till we get to them because this is recorded before this is released. So don't expect us to watch your movie recommendations immediately.
Right.
But recommend them all the same.
We'll get there.
We'll
Yeah.
get to there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Yes.
What the hell?